Hello and welcome to the draft analysis and rankings for the Allied Battling Association Pokemon Draft Tournament Season 3. My name is Ashenmoor, and I'm joined today by the Essential Gatsby,
Hey there.
and we will be your draft analysts. So here's how this works. We will discuss each team, the pros, cons, what we like, what we don't like, and then give them a rating on a scale out of 10. However, as we're both coaches in the league, we'll not provide ratings or analysis for our own teams. And with that, let's get started.
Alright, so the first team we're going to be going over is the Arctic Avaluggs. The manager of the team is Edge Personified. He actually ended up drafting his team after the draft because he could not make it. But still, his team is Mega Lopunny, Tier 1 Scizor, Tier 2 Hawlucha, Tier 3 is Cloyster and Porygon Z, Tier 4 Drapion, Tier 5 Avalon, and his free agents are Malamar 40 points, Landorus I, which, side note for Landorus I, it can only be Sand Force, cannot be Sheer Force, because Sheer Force is broken.
Way too OP. Way too OP.
And that's 160 points. Gardevoir and Galvantula are his last two, and they're both 100 points, with his Z captain being Drapion.
Of all things.
Yeah, I personally don't agree with the Drapion, but especially when you have Porygon Z, you can just stick Normalium Z on it, which I think he might be just going for something fun. He is known to try memes in previous seasons.
Yeah. I think his team looks pretty decent overall. Minus why putting the Z Crystal on Drapion. Because with Drapion, obviously you want Taunt, you want the knockoff, you want the phasing potential. I believe Toxic Spikes it gets as well.
You're correct.
Uh,
I mean, it gets offensively, gets like Poison Jab, knockoff,
Earthquake,
yeah.
I guess.
I mean, it's a fast mon. It's base 95. It's fairly fast.
So he does have quite a bit of setup potential in Hawlucha. You can do a sub sweep with Unburden and like Citrus Berry or some other kind of berry. Porygon Z, nasty damage there. You can get boosting with Malamar from its contrary ability. Landorus I, Rock Polish, obviously probably one of the biggest threats on his whole team.
Very.
Gardevoir, Calm Mind. So he's got, and Scizor, obviously, Swords Dance, Bullet Punch.
Well, definitely. He's definitely got some really good setup mons. Not only that, but I mean, he's kind of middle of the pack on speed tier. I think his average base speed is 87.55. So the Galvantula with sticky webs will definitely help him out there in, outspeeding certain teams if need be.
Yeah,
He also technically has Trick Room availability with, I believe, Malamar gets Trick Room, and so does Porygon Z. But I don't know how much he would want to do that necessarily.
I don't even think he really needs Trick Room with Galvantula. Sticky Web pretty much lowers almost everything into the range where probably even Porygon Z can probably outspeed, and he could even sweep entire teams that way, to be honest.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, he's not very rock weak. I think there's like 3 rock weaknesses. So he's not hazard weak. He has a rapid spinner,
Yep.
defogger. I mean, it's a fairly well balanced team. Nothing really stands out other than Landorus for me.
He does have, and I've noted, quite a bit of fire weaknesses in Galvantula, Avalugg, Scizor, And
three.
he doesn't actually have any resists, so potentially like strong fire type users, uh,
Oh, yeah,
Darmanitan,
he
the
doesn't have
Charizards.
he doesn't have any bulky water types whatsoever.
No, so I think he suffers a little bit there.
Yeah, yeah, he's doesn't have the fire, water, grass core. I think he's missing Dragon Steel Fairy.
He also, and correct me if I'm wrong, only has one rock user, which is Landorus Eye.
Uh, that sounds right. I don't. He does have toxic spikes and potentially spikes on Drapion, but I think it's just toxic spikes.
Yeah. I don't see many reasons why you would take rocks on Landorus Eye, though, rather than, like, Landorus T, the other one. Kind of lends itself more to it. Kind of want as much coverage as you can get along with the rock polish, assuming you're running that kind of a set.
I mean, sure, you could definitely run rocks on it, though. There's that option.
And of course, Mega Lot Bunnies, nothing to sneeze at. You
Oh,
got
God, no.
Fake Out, and then High Jump Kick and returns that just absolutely destroy you. Good coverage options in Ice Punch. Yeah, I think his team has some pitfalls, but has plenty of offensive threats and tools. So, are we ready to rate?
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, so I dock points for being Fire Weak with no fire resists, so no bulky waters, no nothing like that. Only access to rocks on Landorus Eye, which you almost kind of don't really want to use it on. Questionable Z Captain when there's so many better options that I see that you could use it with. So I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10 or like a B minus.
I'm honestly right there with you. It's a team that's I'm not seeing why Drape. I mean, there's got to be something that I'm missing for Z Drapion, but especially when there's so many better options on his team, like I don't know, Porygon Z or Porygon Z, or even Galvantula. I mean, has okay coverage. But at least it's fast, so you're almost guaranteed to get it off. Or even better yet, Landorus, which allows you to kind of fake out an item. But anyway, enough about that. I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
All right.
One of the lower end, but that's okay. He himself is a good battler, and we'll see how it turns out.
I feel like Galvantula is going to surprise me with how well he can play Sticky Web.
Could very well. I wouldn't doubt it. Sticky Web's good.
Well,
be glad he didn't get like Mega Pinsir. Ugh.
Oh no, that would be awful.
That would have made it easily an 8.
All right. Well, let's move on to our second team, which is the Atlanta Braviaries. Manager is Razane, and his Pokemon are Mega Scizor, Manaphy, Tier 1, Togekiss, Tier 2, Crobat and Shaman from Tier 3, Noivern from Tier 4, Miss Magius from Tier 5, and his free agents are Terrakion, Amoonguss, Seismitoad, and Delphox, and Terrakion is his Z Captain. So,
and a Z Captain. Whew.
Oh, yes.
Scary one.
Excellent coverage with high-powered stab Z moves there. You've got, obviously, the close combat and the Stone Edge. It's a really solid Z Captain. He's got rock users. He's got fast taunts in Crobat, and I believe Miss Magius also has taunt. Shaman is a solid defensive pivot with Leech Seed, access to cleric abilities through Aromatherapy. He's got Noivern, which is fast again, Infiltrator to break subs, pretty decent offensive threat in and of itself. Um, Seismitoad kind of fits the bulky water type. Deceptively tanky, strong, that Pokemon. I'm not a fan of it because I've underestimated it myself several times. He also has Togekiss, which is a huge defensive pivot, and it's just being a good fairy type all around. Also, a potential big offensive boosting threat with Nasty Plot. Access to Defog. Manaphy can also boost to Hell with Tail Glow. Scizor, obviously, priority. Boosting, just solid all around. Pursuit trapping abilities. Delphox kind of like fills out a fire type that he was kind of missing. So you've got the
Desperately needed it.
yeah, you've got the kind of like elemental core with the fire, water, grass, and
Hmm.
and you've got the other core with the steel fairy dragon. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think it's pretty solid. What do you think?
Well, his average going starting it off, his like third fastest team out of the league outside of Rain, at 92.36 average base speed. He's got pretty good hazard removal, and that's a good thing because he has like 5 rock weaknesses to take note of. He has 3 defoggers. I mean, like you said, he has 2 really important cores. The main thing that I have to criticize his team for, I suppose, would be why Shaman and Amoongus.
Yeah,
Like one or the other, I just, to me, that just seems almost not necessary, I guess. They kind of fill similar roles
yeah,
in a sense.
defensive grass pivots really. I'm not really sold on the Amoongus, especially because he spent 120 points on that one. I think there's certainly better options he could have gone with.
Um, I mean, that's a that's tier 2.
Yes.
I mean, if he really wanted a defensive one, uh, there's like Gliscor left over, Klefki, Mandibuzz, Melodic. I mean,
I think any of those would have complemented him pretty well. But he does
yeah,
have all of the tools that he needs to be successful. The type cores, fast
right.
taunts, hazards and removal, uh, strong boosty sweepers. Really, the only negative is just why Shaman and Amoongus. I mean, I guess you could pick one or the other for different scenarios, but I don't really think you need them both. So
Yeah, I mean, he has a few 4 times a week mons like Seismitoads 4 times a week, Scissors 4 times a week, Shaman Noivern 4 times a week. But I mean, eh, that's not too uncommon, I guess.
yeah, I,
Delphox, I've never really been impressed by. Hopefully, he'll prove me wrong. But it's probably the best fire type he had available to him as a last pick.
and you can do some shenanigans with Magician, I suppose.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, I like the team. Um, he has like 3 U-turners total, 2 stealth rockers, and Seismitoad, and I believe Terrakion. When I looked at it, I think Terrakion had access to rocks.
Yeah,
Um, so you rated first last time. Are you ready to rate?
yeah.
I'm gonna give this one. Oh, by the way, something that we well, we'll come back to it. I rate this team probably like an 8.5.
So I rated this a 9 out of 10 myself, or like an A. Uh, I really think he has all the tools, and the only reason I marked him down is just because, really, I just don't like Among Us.
I would have marked him. I would have marked him 0.5 higher, but the Shaman and Mungus is a little puzzling to me. I mean, I get getting the double water with Seismotone Manaphy because they fill different roles. But Shaman, I mean, you guess you can go offensive Shaman, but there's so many better tier 3 mons to do that.
I think also Shaman's like one of his favorite Pokemon, and so I totally get that.
Oh,
There's other people that also
yeah,
pick their
that's true.
mascots. Avaluggs
I
picked
did.
theirs. Yeah, Gatsby picked his. So I
I mean,
think we're
spoilers. God.
oh whatever. I think we're ready to move on to the next one.
Yeah. Good team. I like it. Moving on. All right. So the next team is the Atsugi Vespiquens. And it is managed by GF Swarm, with his Mega being Beedrill. Tier 1 Buzzwole, Tier 2 Scolipede, Tier 3 Alolan Muck and Delmise, Tier 4 Excelgor, Tier 5 Rhydon. His free agents are Volcarona, Drampa, Araquanid, Slowbro. And his Z captain is Araquanid.
Wonder
So
what he's
right
gonna
off
do
the
with
bat,
that.
yeah, I mean, right off the bat, Araquanid is a Z captain. It's gonna do like one thing, and that's Z liquidation or Z waterfall, maybe. But I don't know why you would do Z waterfall at all. I mean, I guess he can go special.
It's gonna be basically something's gonna get hurt or die.
Yeah, it's pretty much a one-shot kill something that's not like 4 times resistant to water.
Yeah, I quite like that choice that he made there.
I mean, there's not any other Zmons really stand out except for maybe Volcarona for me, because Volcarona getting Z Solar Beam is pretty nice. Get past those bulky water types
That's a good
or
point.
bulky grass types. We're not grass types. Like the bulky rocks, like Rhydon, Rhyperior,
Well, maybe not right on because
etc.
he has right on. But
Well,
we
yeah,
get the point. We get the point.
right. So I mean, I think Volcarona would have been technically the one I would do anyway, but I digress. It's a very rock weak heavy team, and with only one spinner, he's got to be careful about letting people get uh,
Get
hazards
rocks
up
off,
against
yeah.
him. Yeah.
I will say that to somewhat mitigate that, he does have a Selgor, which is one of the fastest taunts you can have. So potentially he could work around that problem. He does have the tools.
Most definitely, most definitely. And he's missing the grass steel dragon core. However, he does have fire water grass with Volcarona, Delmise, and Araquanid / Slowbro. And he also has another lesser core of fighting dark psychic with Buzzwole, Muck, and Slowbro. They kind of, I think it's a pretty decent core.
I
I
think
mean,
it's solid. Yeah.
they're bulky. They kind of complement each other pretty well. Buzzwole takes care of a lot of things that really takes care of a lot of things that the other ones are weak to. Like Muck is weak to ground. Buzzwole resists ground. Slowbro is weak to bug, dark, both of which he resists. It goes on from there. Buzzwole is physically bulky. Slowbro is I mean kind of more physically than specially, but it can in turn take the special hits for Buzzwole.
Yeah, and it's
And
got
Muck is just Muck.
Slowbro's also got great access to crippling moves like Thunder Wave and potentially Scald.
Oh yeah, not even potentially. I mean, every set's probably gonna have Scald, most likely. I mean, let's just be honest.
So you might notice this guy's got a lot of bug Pokemon, which he really likes. Last season, actually, I believe he picked a team of entirely bug Pokemon, if I'm not mistaken.
You are not mistaken.
So this time, he's kind of like pared it down to kind of like the best bug Pokemon you could get, and then like kind of like interwoven that with some good defensive pivots to kind of cover the weaknesses kind of inherent in that strategy. So I'm liking that a lot more than last time.
Yeah, last season's team was just. I mean, it was memey, but it was just easy to exploit. I believe.
So he's got great boosting potential. Volcarona with Quiver Dance, obviously.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
one of the best boosting mons in the entire game.
yep, Scolipede, another one of the best boosting mons you can get. Speed boost. I mean, that's going to be a big threat. Buzzwole, beast boosting. Uh, Drampa can
Beedrill.
even Calm Mind. Beedrill. Mega Beedrill scares the hell out of me, honestly. And it's also got one of the fastest knockoffs you can have. So switch
Oh,
into it
speaking
at
of
your peril.
speed, speaking of speed, has average base speed of 74.45. So really, kind of lower end of the league as far as speed goes,
Which
which is
is
surprising because he has Beedrill and Excelgor.
exactly. I think
So
it's deceptively speedy though because
oh yeah,
Scolipede obviously is going to have a speed boost on the first turn, so that brings him up already.
I think that's fair. Really, what brings him holds him back is the Slowbro, Drampa, Rhydon, really Delmaz, Alolan Muck. Those are really slow mons, like in the 40s base speed.
Yeah. So we're probably ready to rate this team.
Oh yeah.
So heavily weak to ice and rock. Has a couple of switch-ins to both, but I mean heavily weak to ice and rock as a whole. But he does have the tools required. He's got some decent cores going on. He's got some defense for his bugs. I would rate this on probably a 7 out of 10 or a B minus slash C, just because of the heavy weaknesses. But I think he's got the tools to do what he needs to do if he plays games right.
I'm gonna take a little bit more gambit on this one, and I'm gonna give this one an 8, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the combination of just how bulky some of these mons are and how OP Alolan Muck is, especially being a tier 3. I don't know why that mon's a tier 3. It's such a good mon. Um, I feel like he has a lot of what's necessary. I would have almost rated this like a 9 if he had put that Z crystal on the Volcarona. But he put on the Raquinid, which isn't a horrible option, mind you, but I don't like it as much as Volcarona. And so for that, I'm going to give it an 8.
All right. So moving on to the next team then.
Sure.
So the 14 that we have for you is the Boston Red Sox. His manager is Muppets Man. His Pokemon are going to consist of Mega Blastoise, Kyurem B in the Tier 1 slot, Tier 2 Entei, Tier 3 Umbreon and Machamp, Tier 4 Electros, Tier 5 Leafeon, and his free agents are Gengar, Dugtrio, Conkeldurr, Slurpuff. Uh, Obviously, so his Z captain is Entei. And I'll start out with that since I just mentioned it. I'm not really too sure about putting the Z crystal on Entei. He only has one stab move, and that's Sacred Fire. So he doesn't have a lot of coverage options. I think he gets Bulldoze. Uh, so I mean, he has access to Groundium Z. He gets extra sensory. So Psychium Z is a potential Shadow, or Ghost rather, with Shadow Ball. I guess Solar Beam, but I mean those are all special options, and Entei doesn't really excel that much in special. I mean it is base 90, so it's usable. So I guess there's some shenanigan potential there, which is a little bit better than I actually gave it credit for, I guess. So it's not a total loss. Your
Well,
opinions on it?
the thing about it is, Entei is fine, great. I don't think it's too horrible, but there's two things that really take away from it. One, you're going to be wanting to run a choice band or something like that on Entei most of the time anyway. And two, you have mons that you could have put on the Z Crystal on like Kieran Black or Gengar or Doug Trio or
Anything
like
else?
I mean not anything else.
Well,
I
not
think the main two
anything, but
the main two are Gengar and Doug Trio, and well, main three are Gengar, Doug Trio, and Kieran Black. Otherwise, like I would this is one of my favorite teams of the league, but there's one more issue I have with it. You have Machamp and Conkeldurr.
yeah, you don't really need both of those. I mean, there's really no scenario in which you wouldn't take Conkeldurr in a match over Machamp. I mean, Machamp has pretty much one thing going for it, and that's no guard dynamic punches. But when you have access to, uh, guts to absorb statuses and pay them back with super painful priority moves, knockoff, recovery with drain punch.
Conkeldurr is one of my favorite mons, so I'm a little biased.
I mean, yes, but I agree with you in this.
Uh, that part does not make sense to me. However, the rest of his team looks super strong. I mean, he's got the Firewater core of Blastoise, Entei, Leafeon. I've personally never used Leafeon, so I'm not quite sure about that one. And then he has a Ghost Dark fighting core kind of going. Gengar, Umbreon, Conkeldurr / Machamp. If I were him, one of the first things I would do, because I kind of looked at it before this video, I would trade Machamp for like Metagross.
That would definitely be a really good mon for him to take.
It would give him a Steel type to finish that the Fairy Dragon Steel core.
Yep.
And fix some of that redundancy, and also gives him a nice Psychic stab that he was missing. Really gives him Steel and Psychic, which is what he was very much lacking.
Definitely agree with you. So he does have a bulky water type in Blastoise, and it's also access to Spin. I think it's his only access to Spin, actually.
Right, which is a markdown.
He does have powerful coverage moves and attack with Mega Blastoise, but having seen Mega Blastoise in previous leagues, it tends to get worn down, and it can potentially get OHKO'd by certain electric threats, like the Thunderuses, or potentially Zapdos.
But if it doesn't, holy moly, that thing hurts.
Yeah, if it doesn't, it hurts. Obviously, he has Cure B, which is probably the best, one of the best overall mons, stat line wise and offensive wise, that you can actually get in this draft league. I think it's base 170 attack or something ridiculous like that.
Yep.
It's going to be a huge pain. He's got Umbreon, great support, stall, defense, cleric, wish passing, all that sort of stuff. He's got Electros. I personally kind of like Electros. I think it also has access to knockoff. It also doesn't have any weaknesses unless it's to Earthquake, Mold Breakers.
Yep.
Gengar, sub-disable shenanigans, really powerful stabs in Ghost and Poison, a good Fairy Killer.
Really good coverage.
Yeah, really, really good coverage. He can trap and revenge with Doug Trio with Arena Trap. I think that's also his only access to rocks is from Doug Trio.
It is.
Which
is another point off.
Yeah, and we've already discussed Conkeldurr. Slurpuff, I hate that Pokemon because it's an annoying fairy blob. But it's good though. It's good.
You can make it defensive or you can make it offensive, which is, and even then you could go specially or physically offensive with Belly Drum or Calm Mind. I mean, it's very versatile.
That's part of the reason why I hate it.
And his average base speed is 80.45, which is honestly kind of where I expect it to be. Gengar's a little faster than that with like 110 or 115, something like that. But everything else kind of falls in that general area Well, Doug Trio's like 110, but still. It's one of the it's a middle ground team, I think, as far as speed goes.
So we're ready to rate?
I think so. Did you rate last time?
Oh, you go first.
Okay. I would have put this 9, but I really would have if some of the issues we talked about were covered. But as it is right now, I'm gonna put it at like a 7.5.
Ooh. All right. So I marked down on Machamp possibly never being used. Entei maybe not being really the best user of the Z Crystal. Although it is better than I initially gave it credit for, because I didn't really consider its possibility to use it on the special side. Nothing really stands out as a boosting threat. Like, I don't really think he has any boosters to like just snowball the game out of control. Except maybe just Kyurem Black just being Kyurem Black.
Curse Umbreon.
If you want to count that as a booster. I mean, I've seen it wall the hell out of some people, so
Yeah,
it's a potential. I think it has really huge base threats and some potential. I gave it an 8 or a B overall.
Fair enough. I think it's a fair score for it.
All right, this next one is all yours.
Oh, I actually have my cards out of order. All right. So the next one is Gen 7 Garchomps, managed by Ashenmoor. He has actually a team that we both collaborated on last season, and he loved it so much that he wanted to give it a shot. I wish I could have piloted a little bit more. And this is the better version of the team than what I had, because somebody sniped Kingdra from me, and I had to improvise replacements, and it was kind of suboptimal to this version. So anyway, getting into it, he has his Mega Swampert, Tier 1 Kartana, Tier 2 Kingdra, Tier 3 Tentacruel, and Chandelure, Tier 4 Bronzong, Tier 5 Miltank, and his free agents are Thunderous T, Pelipper, Rabombi, and Mian Shao. And with his Z Captain being Thunderous T. So, right off the bat, this is obviously Rain. I mean, Pelipper, Kingdra, and Swampert. But something you would think with all the water types that's on here, he would have a lot of like common weaknesses, but not really. Like, especially when you consider some of the immunities, he has 2 electric immunities with Thunderous T and Swampert. So that kind of covers Pelipper, Tentacruel. Kingdra resists, not resists. He's neutral to electric because of the dragon typing. It's as far as grass goes, Swampert's 4 times weak. Pelipper is neutral. Kingdra's neutral. Tentacruel's neutral, and then he has Miltank Sap Sipper. Thunderous resists. I mean, so much of this team is so like. I'm so biased because I'm one of the people that helped put it together, but God. Let's get into just certain stats. First, average base speed outside of rain is like 88.36. That's pretty garbage. I mean, not garbage. It's pretty average. But in the rain, it's the fastest in the league with 102.91, which is crazy fast. He has 4 rock weeks, which is not that great, but he has 2 defoggers and 1 rapid spinner, which is pretty decent. Tentacruel being, of course, the rapid spinner, Pelipper, and what was the other? It was Kartana gets defog, I believe, which who knew? Z Thunderous is Therian form is really strong. I've used it a lot, even when I was just playing against random people online. It's very powerful. It just nukes things. You just God help them if you get a, nasty plot up and then Z move them. It just it punches holes through teams unless they have an electric immunity. But you can easily get rid of any ground types with the rest of the team in between Kartana, Swampert, Pelipper. It's he has the Steel Fairy Dragon Core of Kartana Bronzong for Steel, Dragon Kingdra for Dragon, of course, Rabambi for Fairy, and people sleep on Rabambi, but that's another mon I've used a lot, like online. If you get up if they let you get up a Quiver Dance, a lot of times it's over. Water Grass, he has several water types in Kingdra, Swampert, Tentacruel, and Pelipper. So he can pretty much pick and choose. He has Kartana Grass type, which is a Beast Boost monster. A side note, if he ever wants to get speed boost instead of attack boosts, he can actually do like a Tibin nature, I believe, puts him getting speed boosts instead of attack boosts, but he still hurts like a truck. Chandelure is his one fire type, and it's a good fire type at that. Infiltrator allows him to get past subs. I mean, it's good ghost type that he was lacking. I don't know how much he'll be using it, but he has 4 U-turners, 4 hazard potentials, 3 of them stealth rockers, 1 toxic spikes. Yeah, that's I like it. And yeah.
And so what's your rating?
I'm gonna be a little biased and give it a 9, but I think it's one of the better teams in the league.
Thank you. All right. So moving on from that one, we've got Great British Grubbins next up. Owner is TJ Plays. He's got Mega Pinsir. His tier 1 is Excadrill. His tier 2 is Mimikyu. His tier 3s are Salazzle and Roserade. His tier 4 is Hariyama. His Cryogonal is tier 5. And then his free agents are Thunderous Eye, Starmie, Tauros, and Leopard. And I will say that out of all the teams in the league, I think this one is the one that I'm the most afraid of. He's got Pixar with the crazy damage with the aerial 8 returns.
Pixar?
What? Pinsir. He's got Pinsir with the mega crazy damage with aerial 8 returns. He's got Excadrill, which is top tier offensive threat. Spinner. Swords Dance, Fairy
Mold
Killer,
Breaker.
Rocker, Mold Breaker. You got the whole package right there. And he's got the biggest. So he's got Mimikyu, which is a top fairy threat, and potential to win games just by itself with Swords Dance, boosting in priority, especially because he has Excadrill, which is one of the best counters to Mimikyu. Salazzle, super fast special attacker and taunter, can cripple steel and poison walls with corrosion ability. Roserade, technician, hidden powers, it drains hazards. Hariyama's a beefy tank with knockoff, large hands, always a bonus.
Fat hands.
He's got spin with Cryogonal, which is honestly, Cryogonal is way better than you would think at tier 5. Deceptively strong. Thunderous Eye.
Well, yeah, as far as Cryogonal goes, it got some pretty good buffs going into Gen 7 to its defense and HP, I believe, which is why it's a lot better than it used to be. I mean, it got an extra like 40 stats or something.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. He's also got Thunderous Eye with the Prankster Thunder Wave, kind of obscene power, speed, typing, coverage. Um, I did neglect to mention that his Zmon is Starmie, and boy, is it a Zmon. You got Hydro Pump, it can use Z off of Psychic, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt. I'm sure there's more that I can't think of off the top of my head, but
Probably Hyper Beam.
hyper. I mean, it's potential. It has potential. I don't know why you would do that, but there's potential there. Uh, it's just incredible coverage. Also has access to rapid spin.
He has the two best rapid spinners in the entire
Yeah,
game.
Excadrill, Starmie, boom. Uh, he also Tauros is a good intimidate pivot. Can put out some solid offensive pressure. Leopard is a great fast taunter. Fake out, U-turn, Thunder Wave. There's lots of tricky options to go with there. Got anything else I missed?
His average base speed is 99.36. He has one Spiker, one Toxic Spiker, and one Stealth Rocker. Two of them are both from Roserade Spikes and Toxic Spikes. His only rocker, I believe, would be Excadrill, which is not exactly what you want to be doing on Excadrill, but it's still an option. So I don't see him putting up rocks too much against people. Spikes, sure, but he has 4 rock weeks, so that's something to keep note of. When going against him, getting rocks is pretty decently important, but the problem is, of course, he has 3 spinners, 2 which are the best in the game, hands down. Very balanced team. He's missing Fairy Dragon Steel Core by missing a dragon. Fire Water Grass, Starmie, Roserade, Salazzle. Very, very fast team, but also very fragile. Any of these Mons take a super effective hit other than the first hit from Mimikyu, they're going down. Other than Kragonal and Hariyama. He's got he has 2 U-turners, and he's got to use them very well to keep momentum up. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for him, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Uh, I mean, it's kind of like almost a hyper offense kind of team.
It is.
Boosters, incredible threats. Uh, yeah, and I think the main thing he would end up having problems with, potentially, is Trick Room shenanigans. But he does have 2 very fast taunters to kind of prevent that from happening potentially. I think we're ready to give rating. I would say it's incredibly scary offensively, fast, has all the tools, the taunts to prevent the Trick Room. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Maybe that's generous since it's not so defensive. I might be a little bit biased towards hyper offense since that's what I did in season 1, and it worked out pretty well for me. But that's what I'm going to give it, 9.5 out of 10.
So I think you're being a little generous. I do like the team, but like I said, it's very fragile. I would give it an 8, I think. I think 8's a little bit more fair just because of how fragile it is. If another team can keep momentum against him and get rocks up against him and then keep up momentum and keep them there, especially with Mega Pinsir being one of the biggest threats, I think it's definitely a defeatable team, but it's still really threatening. Don't get me wrong, he can get wins with this, but he's not going to be winning it by he's not going to be winning any extended games, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, you've got the next one.
Sure do. Next team we have is the Indiana Scizors with the manager Stego. He has Mega Pidgeot, Tier 1 Circuitry, Tier 2 Florges, Tier 3 Flygon and Sharpedo, Tier 4 Meloetta, Tier 5 Gramble, and his free agents are Skarmory, Talonflame Superior, and Frostlass. He does have 3 rock weaknesses, one of them being a huge weakness in Talonflame. Really, and then with Talonflame, you won't get rocks up anyway because it breaks his Gale Wings. He has 2 Spikers, a Stealth Rocker. He has a really good offensive Fire, Water, Grass core in Talonflame, Sharpedo, and Superior. Very fast offensive core. And then he has a nice defensive core of Skarmory, Florges / Gramble, and Flygon of Steel Fairy Dragon. He has 3 U-turners, 1 Volt Switcher. His Z Captain is Xurkitree, and his average base speed is 92.55, which puts him pretty high up there. I think he's second or so fastest team in the league. And that's pretty much what I wrote down. What do you have to say? Well, what are some notes you have about it?
No guard hurricanes, scary. They're so scary I can't even talk
Definitely.
straight. Xurkitree's a Z captain. I don't know if you mentioned.
I did.
Obviously has the potential for sweeps with Tail Glow. Uh, because he's the Zmon, which I think is a really good choice in this case. People might underestimate the potential for it to have Scarf. Also carries momentum with Switch. He has a lot of switchers, so a lot of that's probably going to be going on.
Don't forget the ability for him to go terrain, which will give him a speed boost in addition to put up the terrain.
That too. That is
So
definitely one of the potential things to watch out for here. He has some
yeah,
boosts with
very deadly.
he has some other boosts with Flygon, and Sharpedo. Um, he's got really great tanks with Florges and Skarmory. Skarmory can switch into ground attacks for Xurkitree and Poison Move for Florges. Skarmory also just gets, Defog, it gets Roost, it gets Rocks, it's a Steel type, it's a pain in the ass.
Roost,
And he's got,
Stealth Rock, Spikes.
yeah,
Ugh.
and he's got one of the best counters for it, which is like Xurkitree, a good, strong electric type. Um, Talonflame is still dangerous, even with the rock weakness. Potentially Tailwind, Taunt, can burn, U-turn again. Some boosting potential with Contrary Leaf Storms off Superior. Process is another fast taunter with spikes and potential shenanigan KOs with Destiny Bond after it's done its job. He also has Intimidate on Granbull. I'm not too convinced with Granbull, maybe. And I'm also not too convinced with Meloetta. Maybe it's just because I underestimated that Pokemon, but I don't really think it does anything particularly special for his team.
I mean, like Gramble, I get. Gramble has Intimidate. It can be very defensive because of that. It's a fairy. It's a low tier fairy, so I mean, it's not like he's using up any really important slots to grab it, and he gets his fairy type. I mean, he already did with Florges, I guess, but
I suppose it's kind of like a fairy that he can bring for like more physically offensive oriented teams. So I can kind of
right.
get behind that. Meloetta though,
Not only that, but I think it gets Heal Bell. Um,
I think
so I
you're
mean, it gives him a
correct.
cleric. Gives him a cleric because I don't think Florges gets Heal Bell. I could be wrong with that. Meloetta, I've never really liked that mon. I've never seen it used well. I've always only seen it be just a burden on a team.
I'm not a
So I
huge
mean,
fan of that. Yeah,
I
you
guess
are
you'll have to prove me
correct.
wrong.
He does get Heal Bell. I just had to check.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Aromatherapy and Superior too, which Superior, it's a fast mon. It hits hard after a few leaf storms. But I mean, it's a it's a good mon. It's a good overall team. I think nothing super stands out other than the circuitry to me, but I think it's still a solid team.
yeah, I'm good offense, lots of boosting threats, solid defensive walls that cover each other.
Yeah.
Lots of momentum. Access to 2 different tailwinds. He's got taunts. He's got defogs. He's got everything covered. I rated this an 8.5, and I really would have gone almost even towards 9 from that, because I think it's a really solid team.
I hate it whenever we have the same rating, but I rated this 8.5. It's just it's missing another like super offensive threat to me. Mega Pidgeot is scary, but I feel like something other than but both the offensive threats here to me are like Xurkitree and Pidgeot. Both are especially offensive. If you have a especially defensive wall, they can wall both of those. Then you just got to worry about Flygon setting up and Sharpedo setting up, and then you're more or less okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating the team. I think it's still really solid. It just nothing really stands out to me other than those two.
We'll move on to the next team, which is Karlstad Krookodiles. Their manager is Koala of Sweden, and they are running Mega Aggron, Tier 1 Tapu Fini, Tier 2 Alolan Marowak, Tier 3 Alolan Ninetales and Braviary, Tier 4 Hitmontop, Tier 5 Shuckle, and its free agents are Mew, Cofagrigus, Magnezone, and Rhyperior. And alright. I'm not really sure where to start with this one.
Oh yeah, I know exactly where to start.
You go for it.
This team to me screams Trick Room. With his only Trick Roomer being Cofagrigus, and Mew technically. I do anticipate him trying at least a few times to use Trick Room. Mew being the Z Captain is, it's scary. Let's just be honest. It can literally do anything.
Literally
Uh,
anything.
he's still in don't and just saying Trick Room doesn't like necessarily mean his entire team is slow, because he does have Tapu Fini, which is surprisingly fairly fast. I think it's like base 95 or something, or
Uh,
base 80.
I think it's base 80.
So it's something somewhere in there. Alolan Ninetales really fast. Braviaries decently fast. You can scarf it pretty easily.
85.
Yeah. His average base speed is like 61.27, but a lot of that's brought down by Shuckle being a base speed of like 5 or something.
It's definitely not high.
Yeah. Which of course even if he doesn't want to go with that, he still has doesn't Shuckle get sticky webs? Am I wrong?
I am not sure about that. I am no fan of Shuckle. I
I'm not either.
I don't really think it contributes a whole hell of a lot. I
Yeah, I
mean,
get sticky web.
I guess there's Sticky Web, and I think it gets rocks as well.
Yeah, it's a hazard
I mean,
setter.
if
But
it goes out there and that's all it does, that's probably good enough.
yeah,
But it can
I
also end
guess.
up being setup fodder if that happens for some sort of a fast sweeper.
I think the Shuckle would be a lot better. Like, it would probably be tier 3 if it had a phase of some sort, just so it wouldn't get set up on.
Yeah. He's also got, so Alolan Ninetales, it's honestly like a pretty scary Pokemon. Really strong freeze drives, potential nasty plot setups. Counter weather because it brings in hail, and a little bit of extra chip damage. Might score it some key KOs. It can also Aurora Veil set up for certain Pokemon to do their thing. Although I think the only really thing he has that could abuse it is Mew. He's got Defoggers and Spinners and Braviary and Hitmontop. He's got some status prevention with Tapu Fini's OP ability.
Don't forget that Tapu Fini and Mew both get defog too.
Oh, they do? Yeah. So he's got plenty of anti-hazard, although he's not particularly weak to hazard. So,
Right. One main thing that stands out to me, he's missing like every major core. There's no Fairy Steel Dragon. There's no Fire Water Grass. He's missing like one Mon of each of those cores. To me, that's pretty significant. Not saying his team isn't scary or anything. I actually really like the team. I feel like a few things, just like Shuckle. I think I probably would have picked something other than Shuckle, but side note, he didn't. I don't think he drafted technically. He left his list with someone, and from what I understand, he got pretty much everything he wanted. But um, I don't know. It just feels like something's missing.
One thing he might end up suffering from is like strong ground attackers if he doesn't have Braviary or just minus Braviary. He's got quite a bit of ground weaknesses.
With no immunities or resists, basically. I mean, he has like
minus the Braviary, really.
Braviary.
Still, it's a scary team. If he pulls off the Trick Room, you can do anything, literally anything with that Z Crystal. That's gonna be crazy. We haven't really talked about Alolan Marowak much, but I mean that thing has pretty solid coverage and defensive applications. And Aggron Mega is, it's bulk. It's got rocks. It hurts. Overall, I think it's a really solid defensive team. Maybe it lacks a little bit in offensive threats, but it does have a potential to sweep with a couple of Mons.
Nasty Plot, Trick Room, Cofagrigus. That's all. That's all you need.
I guess there's that. He also has Magnezone, which is like a big steel trapper. I don't think he's particularly weak to steel Mons, but hey, it's a Magnezone. If I had to give a rating on this one, because he's only got the one Trick Room setter in Cofagrigus, and almost every other team is running fast taunts that can really punish him for that. Is exceptionally slow. I rate an 8. That's me.
A couple things that really kill the team for me. His fast Mons aren't really that fast, other than like Alolan Ninetales. And his slow Mons are really slow. So unless he gets Trick Room up, he's got to rely on his bulk. And while he is really bulky in a lot of ways, I gotta give it like a 7, honestly. And he's missing those really important cores: Fire, Water, Grass, Fairy, Steel Dragon. It's a good team. It's just I feel like it's lacking a few things.
Fair enough.
So we go on to the next team?
Yep, that's all yours.
Alrighty. So, next team, we have Los Angeles Lucarios. The manager is Ladurp James, with his mega being Ampharos, Tier 1 Jirachi, Tier 2 Gyarados, Tier 3 Darmanitan Chestnut, Tier 4 Ditto, Tier 5 Garbodor. His free agents are Latios, Keldeo, Aromatisse, and Donphan, with his Z captain being Latios. Right off the bat, I have never been a fan of Ampharos, particularly, but he does have several huge threats in Latios, Keldeo, and Jirachi, and really Gyarados too. Gets a nice Intimidate or Moxie. Of course, he has Darmanitan for the 3rd season. Throw a Scarf on that thing and it's just scary as hell. Ditto's an anti-setup Mon. He has like 2 rock weaknesses, so it's nothing important for him. He has 1 defog and 1 spinner, so I mean that's not a big deal. He has the ability of Trick Room, I believe, with Aromatisse if he wants to, because I mean his average base speed's like 75.7, which puts him on the low end. And I think even Jirachi gets Trick Room, but I'm not sure about that. Which you might want to look into because Ampharos is god awful slow. Even after an agility, it's still like crawling speed. He has several good cores of Aromatisse, Latios / Ampharos, and Jirachi, Fairy Steel Dragon, Darmanitan, Gyarados / Keldeo, and Chestnut, Fire Water Grass. And yeah, I mean, he has several different hazard options: 2 Stealth Rockers, 2 Spikers, and a Toxic Spike. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm interested to see how he's gonna play some of this out. The Mega Ampharos, it has the potential to do bad things to people, but it is so very slow, and unfortunately weak to Earthquake, which he doesn't really have a lot of good switch-ins to. Uh,
yeah.
he's
I
got the
mean,
Ditto for the
2
Revenge.
immunities.
Uh, Latios and Gyarados, I suppose. Yeah.
Not only that, but I mean, even Ditto, you throw a Scarf on that thing, and if you put most Earthquakers are at least neutral to Earthquake, so I mean, it's not a bad option.
It's a good counter sweeper too for when things are going south.
Yeah,
Uh,
like one of my favorite draft league coaches was Gym Leader Geo, and every time he puts Ditto on his team, it's just he's probably one of the best Ditto users I've ever seen. Um, so I know how good it can. I've seen how good it could be, but let's see if he can use him because it does take actual skill to use, I believe.
yeah, definitely. He's also got the Z Crystal on Latios, which gives him just a ton of coverage options,
Z
really
Memento.
strong ones. Yeah, there's that. I mean, there's even just like a Draco Meteor based off that. Uh, Lightning Bolt. I think he gets Ice Beam as well. Sidekick.
Grandium Z with Earthquake.
He, I've seen it. The last 2 leagues, Latios has been a Z captain for somebody, and it kills people every time. So scary. I think Darmanitan is also one of the scariest threats that you can really face down in draft league, because you never know. Maybe it's gonna have ban, maybe it's gonna have scarf. Am I gonna be able to kill that dang thing? Because if I don't, it's certainly going to be killing me. Gyarados has potential for boosting and sweeping. Jirachi, wish passing, uh, flinching people with Iron Head hacks. Keldeo is still one of the best offensive threats out there, with some boosting potential. I like his team a lot, and I'm also interested to see if he brings Chestnut very much, because there's potential interesting plays with Bulletproof, Spiky Shield. Great types to kind of gel with the rest of what he's got going on here.
I 100% agree. Um, I think I'm ready for the ratings. I mean, I feel like I haven't said a whole lot, but at the same time, like it's just a solid team. There's not a lot to say. Um, he was a little resistant on the Garbodor. I think honestly, Garbodor is a great tier 5 mon. It gets spikes and toxic spikes, which is really nice to me. So I'm gonna give it a 9, just straight up.
Yeah, I even have written down here in my analysis like well balanced team. Can't really say anything bad about it. I mean, maybe Mega Ampharos, but I honestly kind of like Mega Ampharos, so maybe I'm a little biased.
Well,
Uh,
the main reason why I didn't really count him off for it is because he does have the Trick Room support, and also I think he could actually pull it off with some of his mons.
I think so as well. I rated this a 9, trending towards 9.5 to be honest with you. I think it is one of the most solid teams in the league.
All right, it's your turn for the next team.
All right, moving on. We've got Sydney Scythers, and the team captain is Crimson Tiger. His Pokemon are Mega
Well,
Gyarados.
real quick, Crimson Tiger. This is his first season with the ABA. Just a quick side note.
His Pokemon are Mega Gyarados, Tier 1 Latias, who's also his Z captain, Tier 2 Alakazam, Tier 3 Arcanine and Nidoqueen, Tier 4 Hitmonlee, Tier 5 Dusknoir, and his free agents are Zapdos, Sylveon, Registeel, and Grotle. Now, I will say he got the coveted Arcanine, that pretty much I don't know why it is in our league, but everybody seems to have that on their list to draft. And it always goes super early, and everybody's disappointed. You see all the rage in general chat and Discord. Uh, Latios with the Z Crystal is just as versatile as Latios. Also gets access to Defog. Mega Gyarados has the potential to end games with Dragon Dance. I've used that mon before in season 1, and I didn't actually take it very much because it tends to have a lot of weaknesses that are common. So it can be somewhat difficult to open avenues to abuse it. He has Alakazam for some fast offense. Nidoqueen is a solid mon. Hitmonlee's got some really hard hits with high jump kick and Unburden can potentially sweep. Dusknoir is a decent tank, can put out some status. Zapdos is a great tank. Absolutely great.
I love Zapdos.
And even an offensive threat on top of it. Also has Defog. Can Wish Pass with Sylveon to kind of like, feed into other mons that he's got going on.
Or just go offensive, choice specs.
Or that. He also has one of my favorite steel tanks. Actually, probably my favorite steel tank, Registeel, which for some teams can end up being absolutely unbreakable. Some curse stuff can go on with that. The only mon on this list that I am not sold on at all is Grottle. And if you're not familiar with that one, it is the pre-evolution of Torterra.
So,
Yeah.
I was with you until I started looking up some of its base stats. It gets with okay. This is including the fuck, what is it called? Eviolite. This is including the Eviolite boost. It gets not base. It gets a boost of up to like 130 regular defense, 97 special defense, base 75 HP, which isn't that great, and then 89 attack. So I mean, it's kind of like a mini budget Torterra, almost. Obviously, it's not the greatest mon, but I think it's better than I originally gave it credit for. Especially being a tier 440 point free agent.
I suppose it has some potential to be used, maybe. I will say he minus Arcanine and I guess Mega Gyarados. He does have quite a few mons that are weak to Ice. Nidoqueen, Zapdos, Latias. Not a whole lot of resistances to it. I think he's got a great core and some pretty great support.
2 defoggers, a spinner. He's not really rock weak. I think he's like 2 after he megas. So, I mean, he's not. Removing hazards for him is not going to be super important. Nidoqueen's always super threatening. Not quite Nidoking threatening, but still threatening. Alakazam outspeeds everything. I mean, not everything. Well, you know what I mean. But I will say, Mega Gyarados, I think his team does a little bit more job of defending the Mega Gyarados. Like Latios is a little bit more bulky Pokemon, and it resists fighting and electric, which are the basically and grass, which are a lot of Gyarados' main weaknesses.
That's a good point.
Arcanine resists grass. Nidoqueen is immune to electric. I mean, I think it's got a little bit more support than when it had on your team. So I honestly think it's going to be a mon to watch out for when you go against this guy.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so I think we're ready to move on to rating it. I think it has a good core and good support, and kind of in the light of, because I didn't really consider how well he'd be able to defend that Gyarados as much as I probably could have. That boosted up maybe 0.5 points for me. I'm still not sold on Grottle. I'm just not. I'd have to see it in use. I guess I just really haven't seen anybody play with that kind of a mon. So I'm gonna say 8.5 trending towards 8.
I'm gonna be a little bit more bold with this one because I almost view Grottle as kind of a Piloswine, and because he does get Stealth Rock, and it's got a fairly decent attack. So I'm gonna actually put this at a 9. It didn't really sound like I was praising it too much, but I think this team it's pretty good. It's got like 78.2 average base speed and a Trick Room setter, maybe 2 if I didn't count it right. So I mean, I think it's actually pretty good. I actually really enjoyed looking at this team.
All right, moving on.
And last but not least, we have the Toronto Turtwigs
Well,
with.
second to last.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I don't cover the last one because it's me, but the last one for me is the Toronto Turtwigs with Mega Metacham, Tier 1 Infernape, Tier 2 Rotom Wash, Tier 3 Nidoking and Venusaur, Tier 4 Exploud, Tier 5 Butterfree, and his free agents are Garchomp, Vikavolt, Goodra, and Torkoal. His Z Captain being Garchomp. Starting off, C Garchomp is scary as hell because then you don't ever know what it's going to bring. It could have Scarf, it could have Life Orb, it could have Rocky Helmet, it could have Z move. Scary as hell. Average base speed overall is like 76.55. Scary team. Very scary team.
I don't know if you mentioned their manager's Pixlet.
Oh, yeah. Manager is Pixlet. My bad. So, first initial thoughts. Mega Metacham has almost no switch-ins at all in the game of Pokemon. It really doesn't.
Incredible power. Really the highest base attack of anything once you factor in its ability. It does suffer from speed, though. It's only base 100, and
Right.
looking through here, I don't really see anything that he has that kind of like boosts that. He doesn't really have any sticky webs. He doesn't really have any tailwinds. At least I don't think Butterfree gets tailwind. But I'm gonna
I
check.
actually think it might.
It does get tailwind. So fair enough. I was kind of wondering why he picked that Butterfree, but knowing that it's a tailwind user, I guess it sort of makes more sense. He's got other powerful mons and
Set up potential
Rotom.
too.
Yes, definitely so. He's got other just good all around mons like Rotom W. I mean, who doesn't like that one? It's annoying. It has Volt Switch, it has status, it has powerful offensive moves, great resists. Venusaur is a powerful defensive presence with a lot of resists. Exploud hurts a lot more than you would think, especially with Boom
God, yes.
Burst. It is slow
Choice
though.
specs, Boom Burst. Oh,
He's got Z on Garchomp, and you know that's an incredible amount of power behind that. You can basically kill a lot of things with just you know Z outrage, and you know stuff dies if it doesn't resist it.
or
Uh,
immune.
there's plenty of unpredictability that can go in there. Garchomp has a lot of coverage moves, a lot of options to use with that Z Crystal. It also has rocks, and it can potentially go defensive with the Rough Skin Rocky Helmet build to counter, physically offensive teams. I like Garchomp. I'm kind of biased though. He's got like my two favorite Pokemon, Garchomp and Nidoking. And speaking of Nidoking, Nidoking can really just kind of do anything. Like Nidoking has, it's like the poor man's Genesect that's still legal. Great defensive pivot with Goodra, lots of coverage there too. You know, Assault Vest potential, it just doesn't die. Vikavolt's terrifically powerful, but slow. He's got Torkoal that has spin, rocks, I think, counter weather with drought. So I think that's all pretty good. I don't think I've mentioned Infernape much, but it's fast. It's by far his fastest mon on his team. I don't think he has really anything else. Garchomp's a little bit over 100, but nothing else anywhere near as fast as Infernape.
Infernape's like 111 or something like that.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's 113, but regardless, it's a very slow team. I don't think he has a single Trick Room setter. So I mean, if you get rid of, and I don't think he has much in priority other than Infernape, which did well, and Metacham with Bullet Punch, but you kind of don't really need to run Mach Punch on Infernape. Um, but Infernape's a huge threat. It's a very threatening team, very physically offensive, um, and especially really. Gudra's ridiculously good coverage. I like the team overall. I think it's missing. Oh, maybe not. It's missing a good fairy type, but that's about it.
I'd say so. Want to go ahead and rate it?
8.5. I think is fair.
All right. I'm gonna go a little bit lower, and there's one reason I'm doing that because he has a lot of these like middling to low speed tier threats that kind of desperately want some extra support with either sticky web or tailwind, what have you. And the only real way they have to like sweep teams is with Scarf, which is going to be really predictable. Uh, minus Garchomp and maybe Infernape, he's going to get outsped by at least like one really devastating Mon on almost every team. And especially with Mega Metacham, uh, not really having access to any speed increases and being base 100, I think it's gonna suffer a little bit. So I'm gonna give this 7.5, maybe trending towards 8, but a 7.5 I'm gonna give it because Butterfree being your only Tailwind user, I don't think that's the best option that he had available to him.
Yeah, I guess. The main reason why I put it a little bit higher is he does have a lot of speed boosting things with Tailwind, and Vikavolt has agility, Gudra has Dragon Dance. Uh, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Also, he has the something I completely spaced off, and I haven't written down the card. He has the Torkoal Venusaur core, so I mean he does have speed there in the sun.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that either. I'd probably trend towards 8 then, knowing that.
Yeah,
But I'm still just sad about the Metacham Mega. It just wants a little bit more support.
I can see that.
Well, last but not least, it is the Essential Gatsby's team, Washington State Weezings. So I'm going to be solo on this one. The Pokemon we've got, Mega Venusaur, Tier 1 Tapu Koko, Tier 2 Lucario, Tier 3 Uxie and Vaporeon, Tier 4 Skuntank, Tier 5 Piloswine, and his free agents are Heatran, Salamence, Weezing, and Pyukumuku. Z Crystal's on Salamence. And since I'm on Salamence, damn, that's a good Z Captain. You have incredible adaptability with Z on the physical or the special sides. You have access to Dragon Dance, uh, Moxie, or Intimidate, both incredible abilities. So, I mean, that thing has the potential to just end games just by coming out, especially with the Z Crystal. I can imagine a scenario in which you throw out, Moxie Salamence once any threats that are faster come out, and just Z the next mon, get the Moxie boost, and then just start tearing team apart. Um, Mega Venusaur, one of the best megas there is. It's a tier 1 mega for a reason. Incredibly good defensive typing and ability. Still good offense. You've got Leech Seed. You've got Poisoning. It's really, really effective. Tapu Koko, super fast fairy and electric type. Great threat. Can be physical or special. Lucario, boosting physical or special. You kind of notice somewhat of a theme here in that the team has great versatility between whether it can be physical or there can be special, which makes it really hard to prepare for in team builders because you're kind of like, oh, hey, you know what? I need to prepare for this being, defensive. Let me put on, or physically offensive. So let me put defense on my tank, and then it turns out to be special. He's got Uxie, which is one of the best lead mons that I can think of, especially for tier 3. Great defensive statuser. Has rocks. He's got a cleric with Vaporeon, with like Wish, Heal Bell, phasing with Roar, Scald. More moves than you can do. Uh, Skuntank is really good. It has Defog, good overall mon. Covers a little bit of a psychic weakness that you might otherwise have. Piloswine is probably the gem of tier 5, honestly. You put Eviolite on it, it hits pretty much everything. It's got rocks. There's teams that are going to lose just because they can't handle that Pokemon. He's got Heatran, which is one of the best offensive and defensive steel types. Really a typing that can't be rivaled either way. And he's got a core of Salamence, Heatran, and Tapu Koko, which is really great. And then he's got the Elemental core with Vaporeon, Venusaur, and Heatran again. Heatran, it's one of the best Pokemon. It just is. And he can switch in, ground moves with Uxie, Salamence, Weezing. He's got, tons of ways to go about that. Weezing's a great poison type in tank, and obviously it's, his team mascot, so why not take it? Pyukumuku, I don't like that Pokemon because of the stupid shenanigans that you get with innards out, and counter, and all that stuff. But you can also run it unaware and beat booster Pokemon.
Unaware is so much better.
Yeah, unaware. Base speed 76, which isn't like super high, but that's really taken down by Pyukumuku. I think it's in the mid 80s if you count Pyukumuku out, because Pyukumuku's base is like 5. And Piloswine too is pretty low on the list. He's got great cores. Koko, Heatran, Ments. Come on. There's really almost nothing better you can get than that. Has all the potential tools for just sweeping people. Great type synergy. Seems really well thought out. I'm going to give this one a 9 to a 9.5. I think it's one of the most aggressive and defensive teams. Just one of the best teams. Really well balanced. Yeah, so that's my rating for that. 9.5.
Alrighty. Sounds good to me.
And that is all 12 teams for Season 3 of the ABA. Everyone's looking really solid in this draft. I don't think anybody just, totally bombed it at all.
No.
Everybody's looking dangerous. And we're super excited to see how the first week of games play out, which start, I believe, on Monday.
You are correct. Monday the 21st?
21st. Eclipse Day. Yeah. Go out and watch that.
I'm just going to do YouTube.
Yeah. So, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Have a great day.
Bye.